May 22nd, 1979, Mexico City, Mexico. The Auditorio Nacional. 9:14 p.m., Dean Martin was performing south of the border for the first time in 15 years. A special engagement, 2 nights only, part of a Latin American tour. The promoters had been trying to book Dean for years. Mexico loved him, his music, his style, his cool demeanor that transcended language and culture. The Auditorio Nacional was packed, 5,000 people. The largest crowd Dean had performed for in months. Mexican families, businessmen, tourists, everyone dressed up, everyone excited. The energy in the room was electric, warm, welcoming, different from Vegas, more passionate, more alive. Dean's band was tight, playing perfectly. Among them was Carlos Moreno, Dean's guitarist for 7 years, 31 years old, born in Tijuana, raised in San Diego, first-generation Mexican-American. Carlos was incredibly talented, had studied classical guitar as a child, flamenco as a teenager, jazz in his 20s. Could play anything, any style, any genre. Dean had discovered him playing in a small club in Los Angeles in 1972, hired him on the spot. Carlos had been with Dean ever since, loyal, dedicated, professional. This Mexico City show was special for Carlos. It was home. His parents were in the audience, his siblings, his extended family, 20 people total, all there to see Carlos on stage, playing for Dean Martin, living the dream. Carlos had never been prouder. During the 7th song, Dean noticed something. A commotion in the VIP section. Front row, a group of men, maybe 8 of them, all wearing expensive suits. Gold jewelry, watches that cost more than cars. They were loud, talking during the performance, laughing, drinking heavily, making a scene. But security wasn't stopping them. Security was actually staying away from them, giving them space, showing deference. Dean knew what that meant. These men were connected, powerful, dangerous. The kind of people security didn't confront, the kind of people who did what they wanted, when they wanted, how they wanted. One man stood out, sitting in the center, mid-40s, dark hair slicked back, expensive suit, diamond ring on every finger. He was clearly the leader, the one the others deferred to, the one with the power. His name was Javier Ruiz, but people called him El Tigre, the Tiger. Javier Ruiz ran one of the largest drug cartels in Mexico, controlled trafficking routes from South America through Mexico into the United States, made millions of dollars a week, had politicians in his pocket, police on his payroll, judges who ruled in his favor. Javier Ruiz was untouchable. In Mexico City, he was more powerful than the government, more feared than the law, more influential than anyone. And he was at Dean Martin's show, not because he was a fan, but because being seen there, in the VIP section, with his men, sent a message that he could go anywhere, do anything, and nobody could stop him. During a guitar solo Carlos was playing, eyes closed, lost in the music, fingers dancing across the strings, beautiful, technical, perfect. Javier Ruiz stood up, walked toward the stage. His men followed, 8 of them, moving as a unit, a show of force. Security saw them coming, moved aside, didn't even try to stop them. Javier reached the stage, looked up at Carlos, still playing, still unaware. Javier called out, "Hey, guitarist!" Carlos didn't hear him. The music too loud, his focus too intense. "Hey!" Javier shouted louder, "I'm talking to you!" Carlos's eyes opened. He saw Javier, saw the men behind him. His playing faltered, slowed, stopped. The band noticed, started to fade out. Dean turned around, saw Javier at the edge of the stage, saw Carlos standing there, frozen, guitar in hand. "What's going on?" Dean asked, walking over. Javier looked at Dean, smiled, a cold smile. "Your guitarist," Javier said. His English heavily accented but clear. "I want him to play something for me." "We're in the middle of a show," Dean said. "He'll play what's on the set list." "No," Javier said, his smile fading. "I want him to play now." What I want. Dean's expression hardened. That's not how this works. Javier's voice turned cold. In Mexico City, things work how I say they work. Dean looked at Carlos, then back at Javier. We're not in your world, Dean said. We're in mine. And in my world, my band plays what I tell them to play. Javier laughed, a harsh sound. Your world? American, you are in my city, in my country, and when I ask for something, I get it. Dean stepped to the edge of the stage, looked down at Javier. Not tonight, you don't. Javier's men shifted, hands moving toward their jackets, ready. The audience was starting to notice, starting to murmur, starting to realize something was wrong. Javier pointed at Carlos. You, he said, play La Bamba, now. Carlos looked at Dean, uncertain, scared. Dean shook his head. Don't. Carlos, Javier said, his voice dangerous. I'm not asking, I'm telling. Play La Bamba, or what? Dean interrupted. Javier's eyes went cold. Or I'll make sure you regret it, both of you. Dean was quiet for a moment. Then he set his microphone down, turned to his band. Pack up. We're leaving. What? The pianist said, confused. Pack up, Dean repeated. Show's over. Mr. Martin, the stage manager, appeared. You can't just... Yes, I can, Dean said. We're leaving, now. Javier stepped forward. You're not going anywhere, American. Watch me, Dean said. He turned to Carlos. Get your guitar. We're going. Carlos started unplugging his guitar, hands shaking. Javier grabbed the edge of the stage, pulled himself up, stood on the stage, facing Dean. You walk out of here, Javier said, his voice low, threatening. And you'll never work in Mexico again. I'll make sure of it. Good, Dean said, because I don't work for people who threaten my band. You're making a mistake, Javier said. No, Dean replied. You made the mistake. You came to my show, interrupted my performance, threatened my guitarist. That's your mistake, not mine. Javier's face darkened. Do you know who I am? I don't care who you are, Dean said. You could be the president of Mexico. You could be God himself. You don't threaten my people. The audience was in chaos now, people standing, trying to see what was happening. Security was paralyzed, unsure what to do. The promoter ran onto the stage. Mr. Martin, please, if you leave, we lose everything. Then you should have better security, Dean said. You should have stopped him from getting on my stage. But I'm sorry, Dean said, but I'm not performing for people who threaten my band. The band was packed, ready to go. Dean looked at Carlos. Let's go. Carlos nodded, started walking toward the wings. Javier grabbed his arm, stopped him. You don't walk away from me, Javier said. Dean stepped between them, released Javier's grip on Carlos. Yes, he does, Dean said, and so do I. Javier's men started moving onto the stage, surrounding them. Javier looked at Dean, his eyes cold, calculating. You have no idea who you're dealing with, American. You have no idea what I can do. Maybe not, Dean said, but I know what I can do. I can walk out of here. I can hold a press conference. I can tell every journalist in Mexico, in America, in the world, that Javier Ruiz, El Tigre, threatened my guitarist during a show in front of 5,000 people. I can make sure everyone knows that you're a bully, a thug, someone who can't even let people enjoy a concert without showing off his power. Javier's jaw tightened. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Dean said. The two men stood face to face, the stage silent, the audience watching, security frozen, Dean's band ready to leave, Javier's men ready to act. A standoff. Then Javier smiled. Step back. You're brave, American. Stupid, but brave. Dean didn't respond, just stood there waiting. Javier turned to his men. Let them go. What? One of them said. I said, let them go, Javier repeated, his voice hard. They're leaving. The men moved aside, created a path. Dean gestured to Carlos. Go. Carlos walked off stage, quickly, heading for the exit. The band followed. Dean was the last to leave. He looked at Javier one more time. "If I ever hear that you've touched Carlos or his family," Dean said, "I'll make sure the world knows exactly who you are and what you do." Javier's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Is that a threat, American?" "It's a promise," Dean said. Dean walked off stage, through the wings, out the back exit where a car was waiting. The band piled in. Carlos was shaking, crying. "Mr. Martin, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You didn't do anything wrong," Dean said. "He did. Not you. But my family," Carlos said. His voice panicked. "My parents, my siblings, they're still in there." Dean looked at the driver. "Wait here." He got out of the car, went back inside, found Carlos's family in the chaos. 20 people, scared, confused. "Come with me," Dean said. "Now." He escorted all 20 of them out, to the car, to safety, made sure they got home, made sure they were okay. Then Dean and his band went straight to the airport, left Mexico City that night. The story spread immediately. Dean Martin walked out of Mexico City because a cartel leader threatened his guitarist. The promoter lost everything. The show was cancelled. 5,000 people got refunds. The press went wild. Some praised Dean, called him brave, principled. Others criticized him, said he was reckless, disrespectful, that he'd insulted Mexico. Dean didn't care. "Carlos is safe," Dean told a reporter the next day. "His family is safe. That's all that matters." "What about Javier Ruiz?" the reporter asked. "Did you really threaten to expose him?" "I didn't threaten," Dean said. "I promised. And if he touches Carlos or his family, I'll keep that promise." "Did he?" the reporter asked. "No," Dean said. "He didn't. Because for all his power, for all his money, for all his influence, Javier Ruiz understood one thing, that some people can't be bought, can't be intimidated, can't be controlled. And I'm one of those people." Carlos Moreno stayed with Dean for another 6 years, until Dean retired in 1995. And every time he played, every time he picked up his guitar, every time his fingers touched the strings, he remembered Mexico City, remembered Javier Ruiz, remembered Dean Martin standing between him and danger, remembered being protected, being valued, being worth walking away for. May 22nd, 1979, the night Dean Martin walked out of Mexico City, the night he left 5,000 people, left a sold-out show, left thousands of dollars, all because a cartel leader threatened his guitarist. That night taught Carlos Moreno something, taught him that loyalty matters more than money, that protection matters more than performance, that some people like Dean Martin, will risk everything for the people they care about. Javier Ruiz never forgot that night either, never forgot the American who wasn't afraid of him, who stood up to him, who walked away from him, and in his own way. Javier Ruiz respected it, respected that Dean Martin couldn't be bought, couldn't be intimidated, couldn't be controlled. That respect kept Carlos safe, kept his family safe, for the rest of their lives. Because Javier Ruiz understood that some battles aren't worth fighting, that some people aren't worth threatening, that Dean Martin, the king of cool, was someone you didn't mess with, not because he was dangerous, but because he was principled, because he meant what he said, because he would do exactly what he promised. And that was more dangerous than any weapon, more powerful than any cartel, more intimidating than any threat. That's why Dean Martin walked out of Mexico City. That's why he left everything behind. That's why he chose his guitarist over his career, over his reputation, over everything. Because doing what's right, protecting the people you're responsible for, standing up to power, even when it's dangerous, even when it costs you everything, even when it would be easier to just play the song. That's what matters. That's what makes you who you are. That's what makes you a legend. Not the music, not the shows, not the fame, but the moments when you choose people over power, when you choose principle over profit, when you choose to walk away from everything to protect one person. That's Dean Martin. That's his legacy. That's why people still tell this story, 45 years later, about the night he walked out of Mexico City, for his guitarist, for Carlos Moreno, for the principle that nobody, not even El Tigre, gets to threaten his people and get away with it.